Hey, welcome back to my channel, Duct Tape Mechanic, and to another episode of my series, Free on Facebook. A series of videos in which I find things for free and I show you how to repair them, repurpose them, or recycle them in another manner. In this video, I got this Amana washing machine that's getting stuck in the rinse cycle. So if you have a Amana, a Whirlpool, Kenmore, or an older style washing machine with this sort of timer, and you're having an issue with it getting stuck in the rinse cycle, make sure you watch this video, and if you find this video to be helpful, make sure you subscribe to my channel for more DIY and tinkering videos. Alright, as I just mentioned, this video is going to be applicable to a wide range of washers and models, pretty much any sort of Whirlpool direct drive washer. So Whirlpool makes Amana, Kenmore, Maytag, and a couple other machines as well. But pretty much if you have a direct drive machine, characterized by a timer on this side, and your machine is getting stuck on the rinse cycle. So basically you're starting a load, and when you come back, the machine is stopped right here. So there's two main reasons why this could be happening. One is that there's an issue with the valve, and the second reason is that there's an issue with the timer. And let's dive into the first reason next. So if there was an issue with the valve, you may be wondering, hey, how come you're able to start the load and it's able to load up the add the water, then agitate the clothes, but why is it stopping rinse? That's because all of the rinses are with cold water. So if you have this machine set to warm, it's still going to add water and it's going to continue as normal, but once it gets to the rinse, it's going to need for that cold water valve to open, and that's where a lot of these no rinse issues can happen. Either the valve can be clogged or the solenoid can be burned out and it's just not opening. And I'm going to show you how to check for both of those things. Alright, so before I dive into how to diagnose your cold water valve through physical or electrical failure, a simple test you can do is go ahead and put your wash temperature knob to cold, then go ahead and start a load of laundry and see if it starts. If your cold water valve has failed or is clogged, no water will come in and your load won't start. So that'll be an indication why your machine is being stuck in rinse, is actually because your cold water valve has failed. Alright, so some further testing you can do to verify your cold water valve has failed, leading to your machine being stuck on the rinse, is go back here and unhook the water supply lines. And I also recommend going ahead and just putting your cold water line in a bucket and turning the valve on to see if the water flow is good. Once you verified that, you can also come back here, and oftentimes when these fail, this cold water valve will be absolutely caked up with all sorts of deposits. So it'll be physically impeding the flow of water of getting into your machine. So I would go back and check to see if there's flow coming in from your water line, and then after that, to see if you can see any physical impedance from various debris. So once you've verified that it's the cold water valve, or you suspect it's a cold water valve, let's go ahead and replace it. And while we're replacing it, I'll also show you how to electronically test it as well. Alright, so let's go ahead and swap out these valves. Even though the cold water valve is bad, we're going to have to, they come out as a unit. So in order to do that, we're going to have to undo the top console right here. And on most units, it'll be just two screws in the back right here, 1 and 2. But on some of the Kenmore 70, 80, and 90 series washers, you're going to have to take off a panel on the front and then get access to the screws in the front. On the Kenmore 300, 500, and 700 series, you're going to have to use a putty knife and wedge it in there to undo the clip that holds it on, and it'll just come right up. And if you don't see any screws, most likely you have the putty knife clip scenario going on. So we're going to go ahead and undo the top right here. After that, we're just going to have to undo these clips on both ends right here and take off the whole cover, and also unplug the lid switch. And the way to undo these is real simple. Get your flat blade screwdriver, stick it in there. So that's where I'm putting it. It's a little bit dirty, but hopefully you can still see it, and then just pull up. There you go. and we'll do the same thing for this side here. I've actually seen these installed and taken apart in very interesting ways, so that's why I decided maybe I should show people how to take them off. There you go. So with the cover removed, we have access to our valves. As you can see, the valve is just one unit right here. Your valve may or may not have a temperature sensor depending on what model it is, but the way to troubleshoot it is exactly the same. And the hot will always be on the bottom, cold on the top. After you have it exposed here, you can electrically check the solenoids, and I'll show you how to do that by putting your multimeter into resistance mode and seeing if you have a resistance that's in the acceptable range. After you've checked the resistance of the solenoids and you've seen if there's physical damage to the inlet side of the valve, that can pretty much help you eliminate whether it's the valves or the timer that's the issue. I would say if you're in doubt, go ahead and replace the valves. They're like 15-20 bucks, then move on to the timer because it's much more expensive of a part. So next I'll just take the connectors off right here, and we'll go ahead and take our measurements. I'm just going to go ahead and take off the electrical connectors there, this here, and I'm going to put my multimeter into resistance mode. We'll just do it in auto resistance here, and we should get a value between 0.8 kilo ohms to 1.2 kilo ohms, and that tells us that the solenoids are good. But this right here is 0.867, and this one here is 0.86. The issue with this washer is that the inlet has a lot of deposit on it, and it's pretty much blocking the passage of water, so it's physically blocked. But if you do this and your ohm reading is way off between the 0.8 and the 1.2, if it's really high or really low, that's an issue. Or if it's reading OL, that means it's open circuit right here, and your solenoid is effectively burned out, and that means you have to replace the valves. Alright, so I'm going to show you how to do that part next. So if yours has a temperature sensor, go ahead and unplug that first, just like so. Then you're going to see a little clip right here, and just get a needle nose and just pull that down. And then just give the hose a little tug, and it should come right off the barb fitting on the valve. Then we'll go to the back side of the washer next. So on the back, it's just a 1/4 inch screw right here we're going to undo, and that should free up our valves. So, and after that, you just have to kind of lift up on the assembly and kind of push back out, and there she is. And the way to install them is pretty much the process in reverse. I actually haven't ordered this part yet, so I'm just going to reinstall the same part, but because I sometimes get comments like, hey, you just reinstalled the old part, what good does that do? The point of the video is to show you how to troubleshoot this valve and diagnose it, then replace it. I mean, first and so it doesn't really matter if I replace it or not, but as from this view you can probably also see all the gunk on the cold water side as well. So yeah, so we're going to go ahead and reinstall this again, and that should take care of the issue. And if it doesn't, then almost for sure your issue is the timer. But like I said, this is a much cheaper solution to do first, and if you follow the 2 steps I said to do, check the inlet here for debris and then measure the resistance of the solenoids, you should be able to solve most issues with these valves. Sometimes there's an internal issue with the plunger, so that's why I do hesitate to say that it's 100% fixes just by looking at those 2 things, but this is a cheap part. Alright, let's get to it. Basically, to install it, we're gonna go ahead and you're gonna keep the orientation the same as we did when we took it out. So the outlet will be facing down, and we're gonna come over here and push it in, and then push down, and that snaps into place, and that'll also line up the hole there. You gotta make sure you push down there. First couple times I did it, I couldn't get the hole to line up, and I was wondering what I was doing wrong. And we'll just screw it in. And for the hose right here, we're going to do the same thing. I'm just going to go ahead and push it back on to the barb fitting as far as up as we could go. We're going to get the clamp and just put that back into place as well. And we're going to plug in the temperature sensor if you have one. And then put the cold on the bottom here. And put the, I should say the hot on the bottom and the cold on the top. And just in case if I am wrong, when I said the hot is always on the bottom, I should say it's on the bottom most of the time. So make sure you take a picture of yours. I don't think I've ever seen one where the hot is on top, but I should qualify my statements a little bit better than that. And that's effectively how you replace the valves on your washer, and that should solve the issue with your washer being stuck on the rinse cycle. And if it doesn't, then you have to change the timer. After that, we'll just put everything back together. Right there will solve majority of the stuck in the rinse cycle issues on this type of washers. If you do have to go to, if you do all that and you do have to go to the timer, you may be a little bit out of luck because unfortunately they don't really manufacture these anymore, and you have to find them used on eBay. But majority of the issues will be solved by this. So if you find this video to be helpful, make sure you hit the thumbs up sign.